I have no sympathy for men who marry non-virgin women. In fact, I don't even respect men who marry non-virgin women because there's this trend online, on social media, on forums like on Reddit, especially those catered towards relationships, of men going on venting and complaining about their wife. And they'll talk about how this woman is ruining their life. She's causing non-stop arguments. She wants to go out with her degenerate friends. She doesn't respect his, as in her husband's, authority. She wants to be associated with male friends. And in some cases where the guy and the girl are married, she's pushing for a divorce. She's taking half of his assets, his home. She's taking his children. She's poisoning their family and friends against him. And it is quite sad when you see this, but at the same time, I think nobody forced you to marry her. You knew deep down she didn't even meet the bare minimum standards in what a man should evaluate for before deciding to commit himself to a woman. Being virgin when it comes towards a committed relationship, when it comes towards marrying a woman, that is not a high standard. A woman who's a virgin doesn't mean that she's high quality. That is the bare minimum standard. When you see guys being asked this question about what their future wife looks like, what their dream partner looks like, describe her. One thing they always say is virgin. And I think that is such a disappointing answer. It's such a disappointment that we as a society have reached the stage where being a virgin is a type of quality that men have to aspire for in a woman. Because being a virgin is the same as being a woman when you want to marry someone. Let me explain, right? Let's say if I asked you, describe your dream wife, and you said to me, female. And I would think, well, yeah, obviously she has to be female. That's a given. That's like the bare minimum that a woman has to meet. That's like the default. I'm talking about her characteristics. I'm talking about her values. I'm talking about her personality, her aspirations, her spirituality, her emotional stability. Tell me the deeper stuff. Being a virgin is the most basic, bare minimum thing a woman can do to make herself be, in apostrophes, wife quality. But a lot of men think that just because a woman is virgin, that she is now fit to be their wife. Now just think this, at the start of this little podcast, I said, I don't respect men who marry a non-virgin. I have no sympathy for men who marry a non-virgin. So isn't that contradictory? On one hand, I'm saying I won't respect you if you marry a non-virgin. But then on another hand, I'm saying that being a virgin as a woman isn't actually that big of a flex. Isn't that quite an oxymoron, two contradicting statements? But it's not actually when you think about it. Being a virgin is the most basic minimum thing that a woman can do, right? So by virtue, what that means is just because a woman is a virgin doesn't mean that she is fit to be your wife by default. It doesn't mean that she's fit to have children with. It doesn't mean that she will never betray you, or that she will be devoted to you, or that she's a high quality woman. On the other hand, where a woman is not a virgin, you can be pretty sure she definitely doesn't fit those standards at all, because she can't even meet the most basic minimum one. Of course, there's exceptions to everything. I'm sure there is few women out there who aren't virgins because they messed around when they were young, but now they genuinely have redeemed themselves. But the thing is, why should you feel compelled to pursue them? Yes, granted, they are now presumably higher quality people. I wouldn't say high quality women, but higher quality. But is that the standard that you set yourself, that the best you can get is a woman who's had to redeem herself? Do you not think that you deserve a life partner who saved herself for you, who saved her virtue, who saved her innocence for her future husband? Now, if you genuinely think that this woman who's had 10 boyfriends in the past is the best you can get in life, the best wife you can get, as in you can't get anyone better, then go right ahead and marry her. But then don't come crying online or to me, making posts about how this woman is, going out. She wants to go out to party. She wants to wear outfits to show off her skin because you married her. You decided to go with her despite her past. If you find a woman who's a virgin, treat that as the same as the fact that she is female. That is the most bare minimum standard she has to meet. Now you evaluate her. Now you look at her soul and you think, how pure is she really? How do we connect? Look at the deeper things. I will say this, where there seems to be this another growing trend of women going through a hoey phase when they're young. So as soon as these girls turn 18, they start partying, they start doing drugs, they start fucking around. And I'm talking a lot of sexual partners, like triple digits, in the hundreds. They will post provocative pictures online. They will sell their nudes. They may even sell them on places like OnlyFans, Fansly. So they basically have exposed every innocent, virtuous part of themselves to the entire world, presumably for free in most cases. And when they've went through this hoey phase and they know that no genuine, masculine, high-quality man will want them. I'm not talking about the men who claim to be high quality. You know, all these dating experts that you see online who talk about how masculine they are, how traditional they are, yet they date and marry whores. I'm talking about the genuine, virtuous men who uphold the values that God has imposed on us. Those type of men. And I like to consider myself as one of them. Maybe, I have work to do, sure, but I like to see myself as a virtuous man. These women know that this type of man will never want them. So what do? They go through their hoey phase. They make porn. They show their nudes. They sleep around. They've had 20 different boyfriends in the last year. And now when they know they're approaching older age, when they know their youth is now declining, they're now approaching 30, they're still not married, they still don't have kids, they've not really been in a committed relationship, that's when they will find Christ. I call this Christ maxing. So they go from home maxing to Christ maxing. And obviously the religion can apply to any different faith. You can have Muslim maxing and so on, Jewish maxing, whatever. The point being that when they know that their value as a life partner has now been totally diminished, that's when they have this spiritual awakening. Oh no, what I did was wrong. That was the evil media brainwashing me into being a hoe. That was the evil society brainwashing me into sending my nudes or doing OnlyFans. I am now a redeemed person. Now I follow the teachings of Christ. Now I'm a pure Muslim woman. Now I'm a devoted Jewish woman. And they think this will now help them get a life partner, that a high quality man will now want them. And guess what? For most cases, it's true. Men can't see beyond this bullshit. And they look at this woman and they think, oh, but she's redeemed now. So now she's okay to marry. And again, I would say to that man, is this the best you can do? Is your future wife that you dreamt about the one who's went through a hoey phase? Is that the best you can do in life? Because if it is, by all means go marry her. But I think for most men listening to this, I think you'll agree that I think you can do better. Maybe not right now. Maybe right now you're like 18 years old, 20 years old. You don't have money. You can't really financially support your future wife. You don't have the time, effort, or energy to build a strong, stable relationship because you've got work, university, family commitments. Okay, I understand. Maybe right now, the best you can get, the best you can do in terms of a woman and her quality isn't that great. But what about in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, when you're about 25? Think about the amazing progress you made over the past few years. How immense do you imagine your progress to be over the next few years? Do you not think that you could find a woman, a genuinely high-quality woman who saved herself for a strong, masculine, traditional, virtuous man? If the answer is yes, then don't commit to a woman who doesn't meet your standards. Now, you have to be reasonable as well. You can't expect to meet a woman and from the get go, she literally starts worshipping you. But she has to meet your core minimum standards. So, bringing it right back to the initial bit that I said about not respecting men who marry non virgins, what this means is that these men are so lacking in character and standards that they are willing to dedicate their entire life to a woman who all high quality men wouldn't even touch with a 10-foot pole. You know how I said being a virgin is pretty much the same like standard as a woman being female. Like it's a given. That's like the default that a woman should have. These men are essentially so lacking in standards that they would marry a woman in quotation marks who's not even female. Because it's the same standard, isn't it? Like if you want to marry someone, well, of course she has to be female. Of course she has to be a virgin. These men have shown to me that they are happy to marry someone who's not even female. Now, again, like if you're homosexual, go right ahead, do what you want. I'm not going to stop you, but you get the point I'm trying to make here. I'm sure you understand that they have so little standards in their life that they will be willing to risk everything, their entire future, their house, their kids, their wealth for a woman who has shown them, just by this virtue of her not being a virgin, that she doesn't even meet the most bare minimum standards in a life partner. The last thing I'm going to end off here is high quality women, pure, virtuous, religious, obviously virgin women. They exist. They are out there. They may not be as great in numbers as, women and men who are quite degenerate, who are lacking in faith and character and values. But they exist. And if you ever feel like you're not finding them, then the fault lies with you. Why should they show themselves to you? Why should they present themselves to you if you don't meet their minimum standards? I see this question all the time of young men asking, how can I find a woman that's worth dating? How can I find a woman that's actually high quality that I can be in a relationship with? Well, first of all, a really high quality woman wouldn't probably want to date in the first place, would she? Really? A woman who genuinely follows the Bible, the Quran, so on. She wants to be with just one man. She has no interest in experimenting. That's what dating is. Dating is just a way for you to test out a romantic relationship. She has no interest in that. She wants to meet one man, form a dynamic that progresses towards marriage. So if you are looking to date or have a girlfriend, the actual very high quality women, I'm talking like the 10 out of 10 wifey material girls, not just in beauty, but in their innocence, their virtue. They have no interest in this crap. If you can't find them, then that means you are not presenting yourself as the ideal candidate for them. You don't meet their minimum standards. And that's okay because, you have some time left before you're actually considering settling down, considering having a marriage. So in that case, what you should do is continue to work hard. That doesn't mean become a hermit crab. What I'm saying is continue to build yourself up, your character, your values, your wealth, your physique, make yourself more desirable, and then associate with places and people that these genuinely high quality women associate with, as in form new friendships, go to new pure environments, and that's where you will find them.